In the ancient city of Babylon, over 6 centuries before the birth of Christ, a tyrannical king named Nebuchadnezzar ruled with an iron fist. Known for his merciless reign, he crushed those who opposed him and delighted in the suffering of his enemies. His ambition knew no bounds, and he sought to dominate the known world, with dreams of an empire that stretched from the sands of Egypt to the mountains of Persia. But within the grand walls of Babylon, an event was about to unfold that would shake the very foundation of the king's power. A divine encounter that many overlook, hidden within the pages of the Old Testament. This story is not just about a cruel ruler, but about the timeless struggle between earthly power and divine will, between the fleeting authority of man and the eternal sovereignty of God. After subjugating Syria, Nebuchadnezzar turned his gaze towards Egypt, a formidable adversary standing in his path to imperial supremacy. But Judah, a small kingdom caught in the crossfire of these larger powers, was a nuisance that the king sought to eliminate. To solidify his control, he ordered the best and brightest young Jews to be taken captive and trained in the ways of Babylon, to serve as his wise men and advisors. Among these captives were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, names that would soon be forgotten as they were given new identities by their captors: Belteshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These young men, though stripped of their homeland and heritage, clung to their faith in the God of Israel, even as they were thrust into the heart of a pagan empire. Nebuchadnezzar, in a display of his unyielding power, commissioned the construction of a massive golden statue, a towering idol standing 90 feet tall. It was not merely a symbol of his wealth or craftsmanship, but a test of loyalty. The king summoned all the officials of his kingdom to bow before the statue in a grand ceremony, demanding that they worship it as a god. Any who refused would face a horrific death, thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. The entire court, fearing the king's wrath, complied, except for 3 men. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, standing resolute, refused to bow. The pressure to conform must have been immense, the fear of the furnace overwhelming, but their faith was unshakable. Their defiance was quickly reported to Nebuchadnezzar by jealous courtiers, eager to see these Jews punished for their insolence and their rise to power in a foreign land. When the king heard of their rebellion, his fury was uncontrollable. Yet, in a rare display of restraint, he gave them one last chance to submit. But the 3 men stood firm, their response echoing through the ages. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Their words were a testament to their unwavering faith. They did not know if God would save them, but they were prepared to face the flames rather than betray their beliefs. Enraged by their defiance, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. The heat was so intense that the soldiers who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire were themselves consumed by the flames. But as the king watched, expecting to see their bodies reduced to ash, he was struck by a sight that defied all reason. There, amidst the roaring flames, stood not 3 men, but 4. The 4th figure, radiant and unbound, walked with them through the inferno. Nebuchadnezzar, astonished, exclaimed, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." This mysterious figure, believed by many to be a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ, had joined them in their moment of trial. The flames that were meant to destroy had no power over them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, nor did their clothes smell of smoke. The only thing the fire consumed was the ropes that had bound them, setting them free in the very place meant for their destruction. Nebuchadnezzar, awed by this miraculous deliverance, called them out of the furnace. When they emerged, unharmed and untouched by the fire, the king was forced to acknowledge the supremacy of their God. The very ruler who had demanded their worship now decreed that no one in his kingdom should speak against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for no other God can save in this way. This story, recounted in the book of Daniel, is a powerful reminder of the courage and faith required to stand against the forces of evil. It also hints at the presence of Christ in the Old Testament, a glimpse of the Savior who would later walk among men, enduring suffering and death, only to rise victorious. The furnace that was meant to destroy became a place of divine encounter, a testimony to the power of God to save and deliver, even in the most hopeless of situations. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is not just an ancient tale of faith. It is a call to trust in God, even when the cost is high. It reminds us that in the fiery trials of life, we are not alone. Christ walks with us, and his presence can turn our greatest fears into moments of triumph. The king who thought himself invincible was brought to his knees, not by armies or rebellion, but by the quiet, steadfast faith of 3 young men who chose to serve the living God rather than bow to a lifeless idol. As believers, we are called to that same faith, that same courage, knowing that whether we are delivered from the fire or through it, God is with us, and his power is greater than any force we may face.